The year was 1750. A grim, rain-slicked London afternoon witnessed a bizarre spectacle. A wealthy traveler named Jonas Hanway stepped onto the muddy street. He held a strange contraption of stretched silk and whalebone. He raised it proudly above his head. The surrounding crowd stopped in absolute disbelief. Passersby jeered and threw fistfuls of street filth at him. What nobody knew at the time was that this ridiculous gesture would trigger a tectonic shift. It would smash a centuries-old transport monopoly. It would redraw the architecture of global megacities. This innocent cloth canopy was the pocket umbrella. It quickly became an aggressive weapon of capitalist exploitation. This is a story about the ultimate conquest of human labor over the chaotic whims of nature. To understand this radical shift, we must look into the physical horror of the historical city. For centuries, a sudden downpour was not a mere inconvenience. It was a localized natural disaster for the urban economy. Heavy rain completely paralyzed the life of European capitals. Cobblestone streets lacked proper drainage. Torrential downpours instantly transformed thoroughfares into churning rivers of liquid mud. This sludge was mixed with massive amounts of horse manure and raw human sewage. The average pedestrian possessed absolutely no functional protection against the elements. Wealthy citizens fled into covered carriages. The working poor simply absorbed the toxic deluge. Their heavy woolen garments soaked up gallons of filthy water like sponges. These saturated clothes remained damp for days inside tiny, unheated rooms. And no, I'm not making that up. The resulting permanent humidity within households caused devastating health crises. It fueled endless outbreaks of pulmonary tuberculosis. It triggered fatal pneumonia and agonizing joint fevers. Entire working-class neighborhoods suffered from chronic respiratory rot. Wet skin rubbed against coarse, dirty fabric for hours during long workdays. This caused painful, infected lesions that rarely healed. Humanity accepted this physical suffering as an inevitable curse from the heavens. Weather governed the human body with absolute authority. If the sky opened, human activity ground to a halt. People huddled under awnings or stayed trapped in damp taverns. Production lines stopped because workers could not travel without destroying their health. The economy was completely subservient to the seasons. The concept of a portable canopy was actually thousands of years old. Ancient civilizations in China, Egypt, and Mesopotamia utilized structured shades. However, these devices served a completely different purpose. They were massive, heavy structures designed exclusively to block the scorching sun. They functioned as sacred symbols of absolute imperial sovereignty. Only monarchs and high priests stood beneath these early parasols. They were physical markers of divine status. A commoner daring to hold one would face instant execution. The idea of using these structures for rain was completely alien to the ancient mind. When these objects finally trickled into Western Europe during the 17th century, they underwent a strange cultural mutation. They became exclusive tokens of feminine vanity. French and English societies strictly categorized the parasol as a woman's accessory. It was viewed as a fragile trinket meant to protect delicate cosmetics from fading. For a self-respecting man, holding such an object was a social catastrophe. The rigid patriarchal codes of the era demanded that men endure the elements with stoic indifference. Walking under a cloth canopy was considered a public admission of physical weakness. It implied an effeminate nature and a lack of masculine stamina. Society subjected any man seen with a parasol to vicious psychological harassment. He was openly mocked as a coward who feared a few drops of water. True masculinity required a man to ruin his expensive tricorn hat and heavy coat in the storm. If a gentleman wished to stay dry, he was expected to pay for a private hackney carriage. Jonas Hanway decided to wage a one-man war against this deeply ingrained puritanical taboo. He was a deeply eccentric merchant who had traveled extensively through Russia and Persia. During his eastern journeys, he observed practical adaptations to extreme weather conditions. He saw travelers utilizing sturdy, oilcloth canopies to shield themselves from both intense sun and heavy downpours. The sheer utility of the device fascinated his analytical mind. He purchased a high-quality model and brought it back to the rain-drenched streets of London. Hanway recognized that the British climate was an ideal testing ground for this imported tool. He resolved to demonstrate its benefits to his fellow citizens. He did not anticipate the decades of violent hostility that awaited him. His daily walks turned into a dangerous gauntlet of public humiliation. The primary source of this fury came from a powerful urban cartel. The hackney coachmen of London held a strict monopoly on rainy-day transportation. These carriage drivers earned their greatest profits during sudden, violent storms. Panic-stricken citizens willingly surrendered their last coins to escape the toxic street sludge. A dry carriage ride was a premium luxury that generated immense wealth for the transportation mafia. The drivers immediately realized the existential threat posed by Hanway's cheap alternative. If every pedestrian carried a portable shelter, the demand for carriages would plummet overnight. They decided to crush the innovation through systematic terror. They organized a relentless campaign of psychological and physical intimidation against the lonely innovator. Whenever Hanway appeared with his open umbrella, coachmen surrounded him. They whistled derisively and shouted obscene insults at his character. They deliberately drove their heavy carriages into deep puddles to drench him with filthy water. Street urchins were paid to pelt him with rotten vegetables and sharp stones. The public viewed him not as a pioneer, but as a dangerous madman disrupting the natural social order. He became a target for every frustrated citizen looking for amusement. Yet Hanway refused to yield his canvas shield. He walked with a calm, deliberate pace through the raining abuse. The confrontation eventually escalated into outright physical violence. One afternoon, an enraged hackney coachman lost his temper completely. He steered his massive horse-drawn vehicle directly at Hanway on a narrow street. The driver intended to crush the eccentric merchant against a brick wall. Hanway displayed surprising physical courage in the face of death. He used the heavy iron tip of his umbrella frame as an improvised club. He thoroughly thrashed the attacking driver until the man retreated in agony. This violent encounter made headlines across the growing metropolis. It highlighted the desperate measures the carriage monopoly was willing to take. Pay attention to this next detail because it explains everything. Hanway carried his umbrella every single day for 30 consecutive years. He endured this grueling social martyrdom without making a single penny from his efforts. He watched his reputation dissolve into a caricature of madness. He spent his personal fortune promoting various public health and infrastructure reforms. The constant stress and public isolation took a heavy toll on his physical well-being. He grew frail and increasingly detached from high society. Jonas Hanway died in the autumn of 1786. He passed away just a few years before his vision achieved total dominance. He never witnessed the ultimate triumph of his beloved invention. He died in relative obscurity, broke and exhausted by his lonely crusade. The death of the pioneer did not stop the momentum of the unfolding phenomenon. By the dawn of the 19th century, the cultural stigma began to evaporate. The rising middle class started to prioritize utility over aristocratic pride. People realized that a small piece of treated fabric could save expensive tailored clothing. Small workshops began manufacturing umbrellas across the European continent. However, these early commercial models remained heavy and structurally flawed. They relied on thick whalebone or heavy cane ribs that snapped easily under high winds. The fabric soaked through quickly, creating a heavy, dripping mess. The true transformation required an industrial mind to re-engineer the entire mechanism from scratch. That breakthrough arrived in the mid-19th century through a stroke of corporate opportunism. An English industrialist named Samuel Fox operated a major steel mill in Yorkshire. He specialized in manufacturing steel wire for women's fashion corsets. When the fashion market shifted, Fox found himself with a massive surplus of industrial steel. He needed a profitable outlet for his manufacturing capacity. In 1852, he patented a revolutionary design known as the Paragon frame. He replaced the fragile whalebone ribs with lightweight U-shaped hollow steel channels. This engineering choice made the umbrella incredibly strong, flexible, and cheap to produce. Fox's factories began churning out steel components by the millions. The pocket umbrella ceased to be a handmade luxury. It became a standardized product of heavy industrial capitalism. This technological leap coincided perfectly with the expansion of the global factory system. Early factory owners faced a major structural challenge with their labor force. Heavy storms frequently caused massive absenteeism among the working class. Poor laborers refused to walk miles through freezing rain to reach the factories. The resulting delays disrupted production schedules and cost corporations immense fortunes. The mass-produced, affordable umbrella offered a brilliant solution to this systemic bottleneck. Employers began encouraging the adoption of the device among their workforces. It was a cheap insurance policy to ensure the punctual arrival of human capital. The weather could no longer be used as a legitimate excuse to escape exploitation. The modern metropolis adapted its physical layout to accommodate this new type of protected pedestrian. Cities began constructing expansive networks of concrete sidewalks and covered shopping arcades. The infrastructure allowed consumers to move seamlessly between commercial venues regardless of weather conditions. The economic cycle became entirely independent of the natural atmospheric seasons. Rain was no longer an enforced period of rest for the human race. It became just another backdrop for continuous, uninterrupted economic transactions. Corporate interests successfully co-opted a tool of personal protection. They transformed it into a mechanism for endless labor enforcement. The simple device effectively and permanently severed humanity's last natural connection to the rhythms of the earth. People were expected to function like clockwork machines under any sky. Think about that for a second. A minor adjustment in metallurgy completely altered the geopolitical map of urban labor. It allowed industrial cities to expand rapidly into damp, inhospitable climates without losing manufacturing efficiency. The weaponization of convenience allowed corporate empires to colonize the very concept of time. The natural world was effectively banished from the balance sheets of modern enterprises. The physical cost of progress was hidden beneath layers of black waterproof cloth. This brought about a silent, devastating revolution in human behavior that persists directly into the present day of our automated world. We have arrived at the absolute core of the modern illusion. The corporate state discovered a profound truth about human nature. The easiest way to dominate the human mind is to offer it cheap, temporary shelter from discomfort. They successfully commodified the weather to guarantee that your compliance never wavered. This channel uncovers the hidden architecture of these historical traps every single week. Subscribe immediately to ensure you never miss another investigation into the secrets of our engineered reality. The evolution of this consumer mechanism reveals an even darker chapter. The late Victorian era witnessed the birth of aggressive consumer marketing strategies centered around the umbrella. Companies stopped advertising it as a mere tool for rain protection. Instead, they began weaponizing social shame to manipulate the public. Advertisements in popular journals suggested that carrying an old or frayed umbrella reflected moral decay. A gentleman's umbrella became a direct indicator of his financial credit and social standing. The retail industry manufactured a constant need for stylistic updates. They introduced delicate silk handles, gold-plated bands, and carved ivory knobs. This psychological manipulation successfully transformed a functional item into a volatile fashion statement. People willingly discarded perfectly operational shields simply to avoid looking impoverished. The corporate machine had successfully linked personal dignity to a disposable consumer object. Military organizations quickly recognized the logistical value of standardized weather gear during the global conflicts of the 20th century. Officers realized that trench warfare required soldiers to maintain dry equipment under extreme conditions. Governments placed massive orders for waterproof canvas and lightweight folding frames. The pocket umbrella design evolved rapidly to meet wartime manufacturing constraints. Companies optimized the assembly lines to produce millions of units with minimal material waste. This military industrialization permanently lowered production costs for the civilian market after the wars ended. The technology trickled down into every corner of modern society. It became an ubiquitous item found in every household across the globe. The global supply chain adapted to satisfy this endless hunger for cheap weather protection. The mid-20th century brought a chemical revolution that altered the object's physical composition forever. Traditional silk and cotton canopies were rapidly replaced by synthetic polymers like nylon and polyester. These new materials offered superior water resistance and dried almost instantly. At the same time, inventors perfected the multi-stage telescopic steel shaft. This allowed the entire mechanism to collapse into a tiny package. It could now fit easily inside a small briefcase or a coat pocket. The truly portable pocket umbrella had finally arrived in its definitive modern form. It was lighter, smaller, and vastly cheaper than anything Jonas Hanway could have imagined. This convenience triggered an unprecedented explosion in global consumption rates. As the century progressed, manufacturing centers shifted dramatically toward developing nations with cheap labor pools. Factories in East Asia began producing umbrellas using low-grade aluminum and flimsy plastic components. Production costs dropped to pennies per unit. This economic shift transformed the object from a durable possession into a completely disposable commodity. Consumers stopped repairing broken ribs or sewing torn fabric. It became economically irrational to fix a mass-produced item when a replacement cost less than a cup of coffee. The modern consumer loop settled into a predictable, wasteful pattern. People regularly purchase cheap umbrellas during sudden downpours and abandon them hours later. The ecological consequences of this hyper-consumerist cycle are staggeringly destructive to the planet. Modern disposable umbrellas are composed of cheap, non-recyclable composite materials. They combine low-grade plastics, synthetic nylon fabric, and toxic chemical coatings. When these fragile mechanisms break during high winds, they are instantly thrown into street trash bins. Billions of these mangled metallic skeletons end up in global landfills every single year. They do not decompose over time. Instead, they leach microplastics and chemical residues into the surrounding soil and groundwater systems. The modern landscape is literally littered with the discarded remnants of our war against the weather. Our desire for temporary convenience has created a permanent environmental crisis. Modern urban architecture is designed with the explicit assumption that citizens possess these portable shelters. Look closely at the design of contemporary financial districts and transport hubs. Skyscrapers are positioned to maximize real estate profit rather than protect pedestrians from wind tunnels. Subways discharge thousands of commuters directly onto exposed sidewalks every morning. The system relies on the individual worker to manage their own weather protection using a cheap pocket device. The corporate state delegates the responsibility of physical well-being entirely to the consumer. This infrastructure keeps the labor force moving through the most hostile weather conditions without requiring expensive public awnings. The pocket umbrella serves as the invisible glue holding the modern commuter economy together. Consider the bizarre psychological transformation that occurs within a modern crowd during a sudden storm. The moment the first drops hit the asphalt, a synchronized choreography unfolds. Thousands of individuals simultaneously reach into their bags or rush toward subway vendors. Within seconds, a black sea of nylon canopies blankets the city streets. Passersby isolate themselves beneath their personal domes of plastic. They avoid eye contact and navigate the crowded sidewalks with defensive aggression. The umbrella has become a tool of social isolation disguised as a practical utility. It allows us to move through the human mass without ever engaging with our environment. We exist in tiny, self-contained bubbles of artificial dry space. Let us contrast this disposable reality with the meticulous craftsmanship of early umbrella artisans. In 19th century workshops, creating a single umbrella required hours of intense manual labor. Specialized woodworkers carved handles from expensive materials like malacca wood or polished horn. Master tailors hand-stitched panels of fine silk to ensure perfect tension across the frame. These items were designed to last a lifetime and were passed down through generations as valuable family heirlooms. Owners took great pride in maintaining their umbrellas and brought them to specialized repair shops for regular servicing. The relationship between the consumer and the object was built on respect and long-term utility. Capitalism systematically destroyed this artisanal culture to maximize manufacturing throughput. They replaced durable craftsmanship with an endless stream of cheap, broken plastic. The modern street economy exploits our collective lack of preparation with surgical precision. Consider the opportunistic network of informal vendors that materializes instantly during an unexpected rainstorm. These individuals watch weather radar apps with intense concentration. The moment the storm clouds gather over the city, they emerge from subway exits carrying boxes of cheap plastic umbrellas. They understand that desperation completely overrides rational financial decision-making. They inflate their prices by 300%, knowing that a soaked commuter will pay any amount for instant relief. This microeconomy generates millions of dollars in untaxed cash revenue every year across major cities. It is a pure, unregulated form of disaster capitalism operating at the sidewalk level. The consumer willingly participates in this exploitation because the physical alternative is too miserable to contemplate. The historical records reveal a dark underbelly of patent theft and legal warfare behind this common household object. As the commercial value of the folding umbrella exploded, major corporations engaged in ruthless litigation to secure monopolies. Large manufacturing syndicates regularly stole designs from independent inventors who lacked the capital to defend their intellectual property. Dozens of brilliant engineers spent their entire lives fighting fruitless courtroom battles against corporate lawyers. They died in absolute poverty while factories generated millions using their stolen innovations. The patent logs are filled with tragic stories of forgotten creators who tried to improve the telescopic shaft. Their names have been completely erased from the official history of industrial progress. The object we carry in our pockets was built on a foundation of legal piracy and corporate greed. The hidden cost of our modern convenience extends deep into the realm of chemical toxicity. To make synthetic fabric completely impervious to water, manufacturers utilize advanced chemical coatings. For decades, factories coated umbrella canopies with perfluorinated compounds known as forever chemicals. These substances provide excellent water repellency but do not break down in the environment. During heavy rains, microscopic particles of these toxic chemicals wash off the fabric and enter the urban water system. They accumulate in the bodies of animals and humans over time. Modern medical research links these compounds to severe hormonal disruptions and increased cancer risks. The simple act of staying dry under a synthetic canopy contributes to a silent, planetary-scale chemical contamination. The illusion of safety is purchased at the expense of our long-term biological health. The cultural symbolism of the umbrella underwent a profound shift as capitalism cemented its grip on daily life. In early literature, the device often symbolized protection, comfort, and domestic stability. Painters depicted lovers sharing a single canopy as a sign of intimacy and emotional warmth. However, modern art reflects a much more cynical view of this ubiquitous object. It frequently appears as a symbol of crushing conformity and corporate monotony. Think of the famous paintings showing identical men in bowler hats carrying identical black umbrellas through gray cityscapes. The object has become a uniform for the modern corporate drone. It represents the complete erasure of individuality within the mechanized systems of the contemporary workforce. It signifies our shared entrapment within a reality that prioritizes economic output over human expression. The physical interaction between the modern umbrella and the contemporary city reveals a profound design flaw. Modern high-rise architecture creates intense wind tunnel effects at the street level. When strong gusts hit smooth glass skyscrapers, the air is forced downward into narrow pedestrian corridors. These artificial gales possess immense physical force that easily overpowers standard folding umbrella frames. The flimsy aluminum ribs bend outward and snap instantly, rendering the device completely useless within seconds. This structural failure exposes the fundamental absurdity of our reliance on this ancient mechanism. We attempt to fight highly complex, architecturally amplified weather patterns with a fragile structure designed centuries ago. The sidewalk trash cans filled with broken frames offer mute testimony to the futility of this technological mismatch. In the year 2026, our relationship with this physical object has become deeply intertwined with digital surveillance capitalism. We no longer look at the sky to determine if we need protection. Instead, we consult algorithmic weather prediction apps on our smartphones. These applications track our precise geographical location and deliver real-time rain alerts directly to our lock screens. This technology creates a state of constant anxiety that drives consumer behavior. The apps subtly nudge us to purchase umbrella insurance or buy new gear from targeted online advertisements. The corporate state utilizes our fear of discomfort to extract data and revenue simultaneously. The physical umbrella is now just a physical extension of a vast digital apparatus designed to monitor and control our daily movements. The ultimate victory of the pocket umbrella lies in its complete normalization within human consciousness. We no longer perceive it as an artificial intervention between our skin and the natural world. It has become an invisible, unquestioned extension of our daily wardrobe. This total and unquestioned integration demonstrates the absolute success of the historical conspiracy against nature's whims. The capitalist system successfully convinced humanity that getting wet is an unacceptable failure of personal responsibility. We willingly carry these portable cages to ensure our availability for exploitation remains constant. The chaotic and wild beauty of a rainstorm has been successfully neutralized by millions of tiny nylon shields. We have traded our primitive connection to the elements for the cold comfort of predictable transit schedules. The modern pedestrian is a fully house-trained biological unit moving through a completely synthetic reality. This is the silent legacy of Jonas Hanway's eccentric London crusade. Every single broken rib discarded in the city mud represents a tiny monument to our ongoing alienation. We remain completely trapped under our private nylon canopies while the global corporate world counts the immense profits of our total compliance. It remains the absolute perfect tool of passive corporate subjugation disguised as a helpful household companion. The archivist slowly closes his massive leather folio. The ghost of Jonas Hanway still walks through our rainy streets. Our technologies evolve, but our fundamental subjugation to economic systems remains identical. Subscribe if this truth surprised you. Click the video on your screen to uncover more hidden conspiracies.